What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and today I'm going to be showcasing the Poison Necro that I've been playing recently on the Path of Diablo ladder. Now, the Poison Necro in Pod is a lot different than your standard LOD Poison Necro. Different in a good way, so more damage, you can farm other areas faster and more efficiently, and the playstyle is a lot more versatile compared to kind of a very niche, but still good character in LOD. Now, I will be referencing a lot of the original standard LOD gameplay just for comparison purposes in this video. And we'll also have timestamps in the description below, so if you guys want to bounce back and forth between specific segments of this video, they're there for you guys to use, so please take advantage of them. And a quick reminder, if you enjoy this content, I stream twice a week on Twitch. Link is also in the description below, so if you guys want to hit me up with a follow there, I would really appreciate it. But guys, hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump in. So there's three key points that I want to quickly highlight before I jump into the attributes in the skill tree, and they're just really important points that distinguish this Necro from your standard LOD Necro. The first is that Poison Necro has a new skill called Desecrate. So this skill, you create your own corpse that does a lot more poison damage, so we're talking with my fully decked out character about 38,000 poison damage over 2 seconds, so it's a lot stronger than your standard LOD Poison Nova, and then I can actually use that corpse to either corpse explode or summon revives from it. So it's a very powerful skill. It's kind of like the main showcase spell for this build. You can use Poison Nova. It is less damage, and you can also use it on your left click, which is different than, again, standard LOD, but it's more of kind of like a cleanup skill with less damage. Your main focus damage spell is this new introduced skill called Desecrate. Second point is that lower resistance is a lot stronger in Path of Diablo, with one caveat. So it has a lot larger radius and a lot more minus resistance, but you cannot take monsters res below 0 in Path of Diablo. So what's the point of having such a powerful curse that brings monsters down to like minus 115 poison resistance? Well, actually all resistances. Well, the reason is you can break more immunities. So when you still break immunity like you do in LOD, it works at 1/5 efficiency. So having that a lot stronger minus 115 resistance means that I'm going to be breaking a lot more poison immunities. Again, kind of relaying that point of I said earlier about how you can farm multiple areas with this build, because you're not really going to ever run into poison immunities because you have a lot stronger low resistance curse. And the third and final point is that your FCR breakpoints are not as important in Path of Diablo as they are in LOD, and that is because the skill Enigma does not have teleport anymore. It has a skill called Warp, which has a 2-second cooldown. It's basically teleport with, again, a 2-second cooldown delay. They just changed the name of it, but having a high FCR breakpoint like 125 for the Necro doesn't do anything because you have to wait for the cooldown to expire. And if you don't want to use Enigma, you do have a skill called Convocation, which the more points you put into it, the lower the cooldown actually gets. But it also has, when it's fully maxed out, a 0.4-second cooldown delay. So again, having that crazy FCR breakpoint of like 125 Poison Necro will not help you at all, specifically for teleporting. Now you can kind of like spam your Novas faster. It's a little bit better that way, but I think that anything over 75 is kind of overkill in my opinion, especially because when you get into some of the crazy end-tier mapping, there's this monster density is through the roof. Like you can't really teleport through the map, if that makes sense. You're mostly just walking and killing stuff. So FCR breakpoints is definitely not as important in Path of Diablo as it is compared to LOD. So the attribute distribution is very similar to your standard Poison Necro in Lord of Destruction, so I'm not going to spend too much time going over it, but I have just enough strength to equip my gear, which is 156. That is because of the Rumored Spirit and a Monarch Shield. Nothing into dexterity, nothing into energy, and then I have 445 points into vitality, which gives me 1,750 life prior to buffing up with CTA. Now, Cold Arms is significantly nerfed, so I do have some crazy gear, a lot of plus life skillers, plus life small charms, BK rings, stuff like that, to try and get my gear, to try and get my health as high as possible to just kind of take on the much harder endgame content. But yeah, I only have about like just under 1900 health with CTA, so it's really important for me to try and get my health as high as I possibly could get it. Now I have a 25 to 26k Poison Nova, now that's over 2 seconds. And then I have 34 to 35,000 Desecrate. It gets a little bit higher with the +1 skill from Battle Command. Definitely a lot stronger than LOD poison damage, and it's over 2 seconds, not like over 10 seconds, so again, it's a lot stronger. And then for my resistances, I have 75 into fire, 80 for cold, 62 lightning, and 75 poison. Now I would like to see my lightning get a little bit higher. I think I just need to get 2 more preferably like 11 lightning res, 20 life small charms or something close to that, so that would keep my life high and then keep my lightning res capped. But I do have some alternative gear pieces that I kind of equipped to get that at 75, but that's basically a quick rundown of the attribute distribution for this build. So the first skill tree that we'll take a look at is the Poison and Bone skill tree. Now I have 1 hard point into Bone Armor. Now I honestly don't use it, it's just kind of a prereq to unlock Bone Wall, which I did use for Diablo Clone. Diablo Clone is much stronger in Path of Diablo. I have a link for my first ever experience in the description below if you guys want to see that kind of funny highlight video. But I do have 1 into Corpse Explosion, but the only reason I just wanted to have Bone Wall was just for safety doing Diablo Clone. I don't really use any of these skills. I mean, it's 455 damage absorbed. You just have to constantly recast it, so it's kind of... I feel like it's a skill that you really need to synergize to get full use of it, so that's why I don't use Bone Armor with this build. And then Corpse Explosion is a lot weaker, so I'm doing 22% of Corpse Life versus the 75 in standard LOD. But some of the big differences here, the skill tree, is I have completely maxed out Deadly Poison. This is different than Poison Dagger. It is a skill that you passively activate it, and then it gives you minus enemy poison resistance for a duration. Now, I honestly don't use it at all. I have enough poison res with my gear and low resistance that I don't really need to use this skill, but it's definitely different than Poison Dagger. And then here is your skill Desecrate. So you're creating your own corpse that does tons of poison damage over 2 seconds. So I have that one maxed, and then I have Poison Nova maxed, which is again the AoE spell. You can use Poison Nova on your left click, but most of the time I'm using Desecrate. That's my major damage dealing build. Major damage dealing skill, excuse me. But yeah, it's a little bit different, reworked compared to your standard LOD Poison and Bone skill. For the summoning skill tree, I have 1 hard point into Raise Skeleton Warrior, 1 into Raise Skeleton Mage, and then 1 into Revive. I don't use the Warrior or the Mage at all, just use Revive, just for tanky like Meat Shield. They kind of are nice, I guess, if you use Udars for doing Diablo Clone or Uber Tristram for that crushing blow. But yeah, just use Revives, then have 1 hard point into Clay Golem, 1 into Blood Golem. This is the main Golem that I use, just because as he deals damage, it's returned to me back an additional life. I don't think that an Iron Golem is a really good option for Path of Diablo, because you have significantly nerfed CTA, so it's going to be very difficult to kind of keep an Iron Golem alive. It's going to die a lot, and so unless you have like tons of Iron Golems, or excuse me, tons of insights to turn into Iron Golems, I just don't see the point. And then I have completely maxed out Convocation. This is the Necro's teleport skill. I maxed it for doing standard level 85 area farming. I wanted that cooldown as low as possible. You could alternatively put 1 hard point into it and kind of just live with a 2-second cooldown time. Again, it's up to you depending on your playstyle. And then I put 1 hard point plus all my remaining points I will put into Summon Mastery just to kind of boost my overall life and resistances of my revives and my Blood Golem. So the final skill tree to take a look at is the Curse Tree. Now, you'll notice compared to LOD, there's no prerequisites, so you can put 1 hard point into whatever you want. Now, I have 1 into Decrepify. This is basically just team support, so if I am playing with a lot of melee focus builds like a Whirlwind Barb or a Boazon, I like to use Decrepify to just support my team. And then I have 1 hard point into Dim Vision. This is to kind of handle ranged monsters. It's a really good way of, again, supporting your team and taking less damage from some of the crazy monsters in the tier maps, like the Quills, the Quill Rats I think they're called. It's just a good way of kind of nullifying their damage. And then finally, I have 12 hard points into Lower Resistance. This is to break poison immunities. Now, it's minus 112 res at level 30 with my plus skill gear. Again, like I said, you can't bring monsters below 0, but it is just basically to make sure that I don't ever run into poison immune monsters when I'm tier mapping or farming regular areas. But that is 12 hard points, and then all of my remaining points as I continue to level, I think I'll just put them into Summon Mastery to kind of boost my Blood Golem and to make my revives a little bit stronger. Before I take a look at the gear, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone from the community that either helped donate gear or trade gear for me or give me wealth to acquire some of this stuff. This build video would not be possible if it weren't for you guys helping me out, so you know who you are. Thank you very much for just making my Poison Necro that much better for streaming and for this particular video. Jumping into the weapon, I'm pretty sure I'm one of the only people on ladder to have this. When I was trying to look on the trade website, I couldn't find one, but this is a corrupted 2 open socket D-web that I have 2 poison facets in. So just to make sure that I have a lot of increased poison damage and lower poison resistance. So it's a -54 +9 to Poison and Bone skill D-Web. And then I have a 2 open socket Corrupted Shaco with 2 perfect poison facets for, again, -10 and +10 poison damage. Then I have a Corrupted 3 tall skills Maras with a CNC Shaco and a CNC BK ring. So ideally, I think I'd like to have 2 BK rings just for more plus life. But currently, just as it stands, I have 2 CNC'd. Then I have a Arachnid's Mesh, Corrupted 10 all res Trangs gloves, Corrupted alders that have 10% reduced skill cooldown. This is so I can get 0.4 cooldown duration on Convocation. And then I have a 35 FCR Spirit with the rumored Bramble. This is one of the coolest things about this build is because I have Convocation and I'm not relying on Enigma from standard LOD, I can have versatility with the body armor that I choose. So I mostly use Bramble because of the massive 41% poison increase in damage. Like when you couple that with the 2 poison facets in the Shaco, 2 poison facets in the D-Web, and then Trangs, that is just tons of additional poison damage. Might be a little bit overkill for standard farming, but it's the reason why I went that route. And then I just wanted to showcase occasionally if I'm doing Ubers or whatever, Treachery is just nice for resistance and DR proc. I just use it to get the fade proc and then I take it off. And then I also have this 4 open socket Corrupted Viper Magi with 4 perfect rubies in it. It's a big addition to plus life. So you put it on, I jump up to 1902 life. And with Battle Lords, I'm sitting at about 2k. It's really nice just for extra survivability. And then as far as the inventory goes, I have different assorted Poison and Bone plus life skillers. So 30 life, 33, 32, 25, 36, 10, 22, 34, and 34. With a torch and, with an Annie, 15, 13 Annie, and then a 20, 19 Necro Torch. This one was self-found. I did all the keys, did the torch run with a buddy on stream. It was quite the highlight. And then I have different assorted plain 20 life small charms or res and life small charms. So like 16, 4, 20 to life, like 20 to life, 14 to life, 11 fire res, just a different mixture. One of those is lightning res FHR. Just again to try and make sure I stack as much plus life as possible and keeping my resistances nearly capped, except for lightning. So I'm probably going to try to replace some of these plain life small charms with maybe, again, like lightning life or something like that. And then for my mercenary, I am using a Doom Merc with Fortitude and a Corrupted 3 open socket and Darrow's Visage. This has 3 increased attack speed jewels, with one has ED, the other one has AR, and the other one has splash damage. So 65 increased attack speed paired with the 45 on Doom, and then Fortitude for damage and survivability. Fire res is naturally a little bit weak because of the jewel choice I have in the Endurials. I think I should have put like a 15 IS fire res jewel, but again, just kind of going with it. I'm kind of new to Path of Diablo. But he's got 50 fire res, and then everything else is capped. Pretty decent damage, and is also a Defiance mercenary to give me a little bit of boost in defense. You cannot get a Might or Holy Freeze Merc in Path of Diablo, at least in Act 2 Mercenary you can't, so that's the reason behind going Defiance and Doom. So Doom gives me Holy Freeze for a little bit of crowd control support, and then Defiance is just a little bit more defense to be a little bit more tanky. So for some example gameplay, I thought it'd be cool to do a Baal Run and then part of a tier map. I kind of picked Baal Running specifically because it is a location that your standard Poison Necro really struggles with because of immunities, and that's just not a kind of deal breaker with the LOD Necro. And then we'll do part of a tier map, probably like an Icy Cellar or something, so you can kind of see the difference in gameplay between a standard area and then some of the endgame content that Path of Diablo added. Now for summoning and buffing, it's kind of a bit of a pain in the butt, so I'll do Battle Lords, Battle Command to get the Blood Golem, then I use Desecrate to make my corpses, get my revives, and then buff them up again. So it is quite kind of the process, but so maybe I kill a little bit of stuff. So this is really all that there is to it. You can sift like Bone Wall, like I said, and Corpse Explosion if you want to, but it's really just casting your curses, then Desecrate, and if you want to, you can use Nova as well for a little bit more of kind of like an AoE spell, but Desecrate is kind of the big one. Now it looks like I have one of these. Oh, that's not too bad of a map. And then third one is always random, so Again, it's just lower resistance. Nova is kind of like your AoE spell. But Desecrate is the big targeting spell. Hopefully it's going to take us too long to find the throne room. So low resistance, and then just Desecrate specific targets, and then we can kind of do a little bit of clearing up with Poison Nova. No kind of standard get that first kill and then Corpse Explode the whole room, because Corpse Explosion isn't as powerful in Path of Diablo. And getting to the throne room, you'll really see the power of Desecrate, because you can kind of re-spam it to kind of prepare for the waves, so they almost spawn into insane poison damage. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, and just recasting and setting these Desecrates. They're literally going to spawn right on top of everything. Okay, so the wave's literally dead before it can do anything. The same thing for the second wave. You will run into the one main guy, whatever his name is. He is poison immune, even with low resistance. So I just tele-stomp with my mercenary and revives, and they take him out no problem. These guys are a little bit of a pain in the butt because of the Hydras. Just don't want the mercenary to die. Once the Hydras dissipate. This wave is poison immune, so this is where that low resistance curse really helps. Having it at a high level, it breaks their immunity and still brings their poison res down quite a bit. So I pre-cast with Desecrate, and then just cast more of these after low resistance, breaks their immunity, and they're done. Now here's the final wave. The hardest Baal wave will get just completely obliterated. Now you can Corpse Explode those desecrated corpses. I just don't see the point with how powerful poison damage is. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, just low resistance. You could use Decrepify if you wanted on Baal, because I think with the poison res on my gear, he's very close to zero anyways, but just low res curse, Verdars, target him, Desecrate, and he's done. Now that is your endgame content from original LOD with the very souped up poison damage. So a good comparison would be to do a little bit of tier mapping as well, so you can kind of see where you might think that the poison damage is completely overpowered, but it is kind of required for the a lot more difficult tier map areas. So we'll just do this one, I think. Icy Cavern. Players are slow 50% when monsters are near. Decrepify and hit. Monsters cannot be frozen. Physical damage reduced. Defense and attack range. So that's not too bad. So we'll just go with that one. Resistance shouldn't be an issue. Now to do these tier maps, they drop in the actual endgame map or just regular area farming. You just grab them, stick them in this altar, opens a portal. Here is the Icy Cellar. So those walker guys are poison immune, but lower resistance helps deal with it. You kind of want to... You can use the revives as meat shields, but this is sort of an area where this is an area where Dim Vision would actually work really well, mostly for these quill rats, or bush barbs, whatever they call them. As long as you get your revives out ahead of you, it's really just casting curses, Desecrate, and just destroying everything with poison damage. Because these unholy corpses, they are immune to poison, but lower resistance breaks it. Just keep recasting, recasting, recasting. You can use Poison Nova, like I said, a little bit more AoE. But then I feel like you gotta get more in their face, and because these monsters they deal a lot more damage, it's nice to just sit back behind your revives and just let them do their thing. They're kind of like the meat shields. I just hang back, cast my curses, and desecrate. These are huge, massive areas, which I'm not going to completely clear. But as long as I take my time and have my revives soak up the majority of the damage, it's not too bad. You can see that they're really slowed down with that slows down curse and having Decrepify procced on them. And occasionally they will be kind of... I guess there's some guys back here. You can always reposition them with Convocation when they do kind of stupid stuff. So reposition them ahead of me, pull back, curse, and they just use Desecrate. It's a lot different of a playstyle, where standard LOD, it's kind of like get that first kill, and then Corpse Explode the whole room. Now you can use Corpse Explosion still, it's just not quite as powerful. So this is a solo tier 1 map, and they get a lot harder. You can go tier 2 and tier 3. Pretty solid clear speed. I mean, there's faster characters, like Bozon's just stupid OP this ladder. This is definitely a lot more damage, I think, than the Bone Necro that I was playing previous to this respec. Yeah, this is all that it really is. I don't think I'm going to clear too much more past what I have already. Just pull back to safety here, because these are massive areas, but this is really kind of how I play solo. Just kind of use Convocation to reposition, have my revives sort of soak up damage, and then I just support with Curse and Desecrate and just deal a lot of damage. Yeah, that's basically a wrap-up of the Poison Necro. Well guys, there you have it. That's everything that I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys would tweak the gear or the gameplay or the skill point investment. Again, I am not a Path of Diablo expert, kind of just transferring a lot of my LOD knowledge over and kind of just winging it. So any tips would be appreciated. As always, if you could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content on YouTube, and I stream twice a week on Twitch. So a follow on Twitch and a sub on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.